Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So, it is Monday. We've had a few little patches this morning, fixing cosmetic stuff and a few bits here and there. And the Arbites can finally once again use the generic hat options that were available to us on day one and then disappeared. So, there you go, that's good news, isn't it? But we have a lovely build for you today, and it is something that people have been asking for all week. And this is the Lone Wolf meta. So let's just jump straight into it, shall we? So, weapon-wise, what are we using? Well, we are using the Indiginatus Crusher. Modifiers as such: damage, crowd control, power output, and penetration. Lol. Our dump stat is defense because we don't give two craps about defense or movement speed on this channel. Perk-wise, we're going with Flak and Unyielding, but if you want to, you can change Flak to Crusher. No, not Crusher. Carapace, there we go. I know what I'm talking about. I do apologise. It's 38 degrees in my office at the moment, and I'm dying. Anyway, Flak, being the most prevalent armour type in the game, is going to give you the best all-around damage to the most things, but this is mostly aimed for Auric and Havoc. So Carapace and Unyielding are going to give you more bang for your buck there, being able to deal with the big special targets and also, you know, the bosses that appear, because you're not only getting the usual, you know, Chaos Spawn, Plogrin, and all the rest, you're also getting the champion commanders and things. So, blessings wise, we're going with Skull Crusher and Slaughterer. Two very good stats for the Crusher. They basically stay on all the time if you are using your melee weapon, so lovely. We're also using the Exterminator Shotgun. This is the Mark III with the taser shot. Now, we're not using it for the taser shot because it's a bit crap. We're using it because it just has a higher damage profile, and it just sneaks over those hit caps, well, not hit caps, damage caps you need for different types of things. The other shotgun is perfectly fine. It just does slightly less damage, so it's going to require more shots to take the same thing down. And on this, we're going with damage, ammo, stopping power, and stability, and my dump stat is mobility because screw mobility. Perk-wise, I'm sticking with Maniac and Flak. If you really want to, you could dump out Flak for Unyielding, again, to help with the bosses. Maniac, I always pick this, so you can pick off those pesky specials, and Flak, it's the most prevalent armor type in the game. Blessings-wise, we're going with Execution, which is 20% damage versus staggered enemies. You are going to be staggering everything, and you're also going to be switching your weapon quite a lot in this. And Fire Frenzy, because the Mark III has 6 rounds, shells, whatever, in the chamber instead of the 4 on the Mark VI. Now, this is going to be the contentious part for you all, because I know how you all hate stamina curios, but it works on this. So this one is +3 max stamina with toughness, stamina regeneration, and 4% ability regeneration. The other two are 17 toughness ones, and they are slightly... oh no, they're not the same. This one, 5 toughness, 12 stamina regeneration, and damage resistance gunners. And this one is exactly the same. What you can do, though, if you are taking this into Havoc, I would highly suggest getting rid of the damage resistance gunners for corruption resistance, because you're going to need it. But for everything else, you can just pick these as twinned on Havoc, get rid of the gunner resist for corruption resist. I highly recommend it. Now, our beautiful Don Fryer Arbites, let's jump into the talents. So we're starting off over here with Hammer of Justice with 10% melee attack speed for 3 seconds on hitting 3 or more enemies with a melee attack. Into Force of Will, replenish 10% toughness on staggering and melee attack. Up Close, replenish 5% toughness on close kill. Walk It Off, spending 1 stamina, replenishes 15% toughness over 3 seconds. This is also partly why we're taking the stamina trinket, but not the only reason. Toughness damage reduction. We're also taking the Arbites Grenade, which with this build works amazingly. Into Arbitrator Armor for 25 toughness. Into Ammo Belt for 25% ammo capacity. Then we're going down into Concussive. Melee weak spot hits make the enemy count as staggered for 4 seconds. Suppression Protocol, hitting 3 or more enemies with an attack, grants 20% toughness damage reduction for 5 seconds. Breaking Descent, you and your allies' incoherency deal an additional 10% damage to staggered enemies. Plasteel Plates for 25 toughness. And then Lone Wolf. I know I said I'd never do it, but you guys kept asking. You are no longer accompanied by your Cybermastiff. Instead, gain 15% toughness damage reduction, 10% attack speed, and 10% damage. 1% increased charge on your Blitz ability, and you replenish a charge of your Blitz ability every 60 seconds. So this isn't like the remote destination, which only charges over 60 seconds. This is as well as being able to pick up grenades. So you can replenish by picking up grenades, or you can just wait for it to replenish on its own. Then impact boost, and then into break the line. Step forward and bash, causing high stagger to enemies in front of you, and gain 25% damage and 50% impact for 6 seconds. The base cooldown on this is 20 seconds. We're also picking up condemnation from condemnation. I've said that wrong, but my brain is broken. Leave me alone. Replenish 20% toughness and 15% stamina for each elite, special, or monstrosity hit, up to 100% toughness and 75% stamina. This is also going to be a way that we are going to claw back our stamina. Now, we'll start over here on the right first. Hold the line. Staggering an enemy grants 1 stack of +3 damage resistance. On the next melee hit taken, stacking 5 times and lasting 8 seconds. Staggering a non-human sized enemy grants 5 stacks. Target the weak. Enemies staggered by your melee attacks take 15% more damage for 5 seconds. The Emperor's Fist, 15% melee damage and 30% impact on the first enemy hit with each attack. Weight of the Lex, gain 15% damage for 5 seconds after a heavy melee attack. Into Drive Them Back, pushing grants 75% cleave. And then Strike Them Down, 15% melee rending on staggered enemies. This is a huge amount of damage we are gaining just from these 6 talents. And then over to the middle. Justified Measures, plus 3% damage on successful attack, 5 max stacks lasting 5 seconds. Then into Cower Miscreants, plus 25% damage versus suppressed enemies. Street Smarts, gain 1 effective dodge and 25% dodge duration. And then into Terminus Warrant. Ranged attacks grant stacks of melee justice for each enemy hit. Max stacks are 30. Melee hits remove 1 stack while you have stacks of melee justice. Gain 15% melee damage and 25% melee impact. You have an ungodly amount of impact with this build, so you're going to be knocking things all over the place. Melee hits grant stacks of ranged justice, max 30. Ranged attacks remove 1 stack for each enemy hit while you have stacks of ranged justice. Gain 15% ranged damage and range cleave and 50% suppression. Oh, gain 15% range damage, 50% range cleave, and 50% suppression. And then all of the tertiaries. Dispense Justice, while you have stacks of range justice, you have a 20% increased reload. Terminal Decree, while you have stacks of melee justice, you gain an additional 100% melee toughness regeneration, and Allies Incoherency, replenish 25% of any toughness that you replenish. Obstinate, swapping your melee weapon while you have 15 melee justice stacks or more grants you 15% melee attack speed until you run out of stacks, or swap to your ranged weapon. Swapping to your ranged weapon while you have 15 stacks of ranged justice stacks or more grants you 15% fire rate until you run out of stacks, or you swap to your melee weapon again. And then Writ of Judgment, swapping to your melee weapon while at 30 melee justice stacks grants you 15% melee rending while you run until you run out of stacks, or swap to your ranged weapon. Swapping to your ranged weapon while at 30 ranged justice stacks grants you 25% critical strike damage and 25% weak spot damage until you run out of stacks, or swap to your melee weapon. Now, Terminus Warrant isn't quite as easy to use as Execution Order or Forceful, but it is incredibly powerful once you get down how to use it. It's all about balancing your stacks and using them when and how you need to. So it takes a little bit more time to get used to, but it is an incredibly powerful way to play. So there you have it, folks. This is the Lone Wolf Terminus Warrant meta build that you've all been clamoring for. Also, I will leave a link in the description to the Game Lantern version of this build. So if you want to have a look at that, obviously it is right there for you. And as a Brucey bonus, I have also made a build. It is the same build, but you just get your dog back. So you lose a small amount of damage to gain a huge amount of situational awareness with the dog. And for that, it is literally, you switch, you literally do that. It is that simple. You take the point from Lone Wolf and you put it into Unleashed Brutality. The dog is very, very good. I will always campaign for using the dog, but the Lone Wolf build does work very, very well. You just lose quite a bit of, utility. That's the word I was looking for. So you are more susceptible to things, and you can't rely on your dog so much to get you out of bad situations. So there you go. That's how you switch it. Anyway, that's the build. I'll leave the link to the Game Lantern site in the description. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please do like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And I shall see you all for the next one. So until then, take it easy, and see you later.